Episode 5, The Call of the Andes, Facing Fear in the Heights of Peru. What would you do if the ground beneath your feet felt like it was slipping away? If fear gripped you so tightly that you couldn't move? That's exactly how I felt. Standing on the edge of a sheer cliff in the Andes Mountains, 15,000 feet above sea level, I hadn't planned to climb that high. I hadn't planned for the Andes to test me the way they did, but sometimes life pushes us to places where we have no choice but to face what scares us most. This is the story of how a single day in Peru taught me what it means to embrace fear and how courage is often just one step away. I was in Cusco, the gateway to the Andes, surrounded by breathtaking landscapes. Towering mountains stretched as far as the eye could see, their snow-capped peaks piercing the sky. The air was thin, crisp and electric with possibility. My plan was simple: join a small group for a hike to Rainbow Mountain, a remote spot where the earth itself looked like it had been painted in hues of red, gold and green. It was meant to be a day of easy hiking, stunning views and taking photos I could show off later. But the Andes had other ideas. The guide, an older Peruvian man named Raul, greeted our group with a warm smile. "The mountain will show you something," he said cryptically, "but only if you're ready to see it." I didn't pay much attention to his words. I just wanted to get to the top and see the view. The first part of the trail was gentle. We walked through green valleys where llamas grazed lazily. The sun warmed my back, and the air smelled faintly of wildflowers. I felt confident, almost smug, as I powered ahead. But then the trail began to climb. The air grew thinner, the incline steeper. My breathing became laboured, and each step felt heavier than the last. By the time we reached 13,000 feet, my legs were shaking and my heart was pounding. I looked up and saw the trail snaking higher and higher, disappearing into the clouds. That's when the fear began to creep in. What if I can't make it? I thought. What if I slip? What if I'm not strong enough? At 14,500 feet, we stopped to rest. Raul came over to where I was sitting, staring at the sheer drop to my left. My chest felt tight, and I couldn't shake the dizziness from the altitude. "You're afraid," he said, not unkindly. I laughed weakly. "I think I might be dying." Raul shook his head. "No, not dying, just meeting yourself." "What does that mean?" I asked, frustrated. He pointed to the trail ahead. "The mountain shows you your limits, but you can choose to push past them. Fear only has power if you let it." I looked at him, skeptical. "That's easy for you to say. You've done this climb 100 times. Raul smiled. "Every time it's different. The mountain doesn't change. We do." His words stuck with me as we started climbing again. This time I didn't try to power ahead. I took it one step at a time, focusing only on the next rock, the next breath. I stopped worrying about how far I had to go and started thinking about how far I'd come. But then we reached the ridge. The trail narrowed to a thin path, carved into the mountainside with a sheer drop on either side. My heart froze. "I can't do this," I whispered. Raul turned and looked at me. "You've already done it," he said. "Look behind you." I turned and saw the valley stretched out below us, the trail winding down to where we had started hours ago. The view was staggering. Mountains painted gold in the afternoon light, clouds drifting lazily through the peaks. I had come so far, and for the first time I realized it. Raul gestured to the trail ahead. "The only way is forward." I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. Then I took a step, and another. My hands were shaking, but I kept moving. I focused on Raul's footsteps ahead of me, matching his pace, one slow step at a time. And then, suddenly, we were there. The summit of Rainbow Mountain was like nothing I had ever seen. The earth itself looked alive. Stripes of red, orange, yellow and green rippled across the landscape like a painting. The sky stretched endlessly above us, impossibly blue. I dropped my pack and sat down, my legs still trembling. Raul sat beside me, smiling. "The fear is gone," he said. I nodded. "Yeah, but it was never about the mountain, was it?" Raul shook his head. "No, the mountain is just a mirror. It shows you the fear you carry inside. You climbed it not to defeat the mountain, but to face yourself." I sat there in silence, the wind whipping through my hair, the world laid out before me. I realized Raul was right. The climb had been terrifying, exhausting and humbling, but it had also been beautiful. Fear hadn't stopped me. It had pushed me forward. And maybe that's the thing about fear. It's not a wall. It's a doorway. It shows up to test you, to ask you how badly you want what's on the other side. And the only way past it is to take one small step at a time. I left the Andes that day with more than just photos. I left with the knowledge that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's moving forward in spite of it. So I'll leave you with this. What fear are you standing in front of right now? What's on the other side, waiting for you to take the first step? Next week, we'll explore the Istanbul Bazaar, where I learned that every choice comes with a price, and sometimes it's worth paying. Until then, remember, the mountains in life aren't there to stop you. They're there to show you who you are.